carriage house anyway? I thought a woman like yourself would be in the main house.
Evil sorcery.
Did someone move you out of the home because they didn't understand who you were? To pick with messy practitioners. Because yeah, this skit was based on a real life thing that happened to me as I came into this carriage house. This poor lady just cared about her house. She is going through her own stuff and somebody moved her away from her residence. She is not a bad person. I don't pick up on her being a bad person whatsoever, but somebody got scared. Somebody called a practitioner who couldn't actually talk to the spirits but could just move them on. If you don't know where you're moving the spirit to, you just boot them out and then they get to live in a carriage house instead of the nice house that they originally used to live in.
So regardless of what you think personally about Rebecca, whether you think she's legitimate or not, whether you enjoy her content and the variety of lines on that axis diagram, she makes a really good point here. Not only do I consider it a bad idea to actually banish or move along a ghost that isn't actually bothering anyone, like doesn't seem to be doing anything negative in any way, if you don't have a place either to move them onto or to move them, you've just kind of moved the problem. Now, of course, when talking about the spirits of deceased individuals, yeah, it's usually better to try to just get them to move on into an afterlife, but you should have I don't want to say programmed, but places that you have groups of ghosts like this, especially ghosts that can exist in groups. And I get it, everyone is new at a certain point, and sometimes you just banished without having a destination in mind. To a certain extent, I get it, but it is something to keep in mind. In either case, whether it's a case like Rebecca's video where it's, a relatively benign and non-malicious ghost, or if it's a malicious ghost. If it's a benign ghost, you have possibly created trauma. You have brought that ghost away from anything that it, knows and thinks is familiar. You've traumatized it, possibly turning it into a malicious ghost at some point. But especially if it's a malicious ghost, you've just moved the problem. Granted, if it's a benign ghost and for whatever reason you still want it moved, there's ways to go about it, contracts you can have and you can be specific about. But if you are going to be banishing a malicious spirit, be specific of where you're banishing it to. I apologize if I sound weird today, I'm a little stuffed. But this is one of those grander scope things that you have to think about when it comes to magic. Because if they're like non-violent ghosts, all you've done is push them away from the epicenter of what could easily make them move on their own into their own afterlife. If it's a violent ghost, you just moved where it does violence. I've probably reiterated myself enough times, so basically just be mindful, be specific, and effectively pre-plan. Have places that you can send benign ghost at the very least. If it's a violent ghost, be very specific on where you send it. That's not just someone else's house.